Okay, let's dive right into this explainer because we're looking at a pretty painful irony in the design world today. Think about it. You've got these architecture firms, teams of literally brilliant professionals building breathtaking physical structures, and yet they so often build digital structures that completely bury their absolute best work. It's a crazy disconnect, right? So today, we're drawing from some really fantastic insights by Softwin that hit right at this exact intersection of design, performance, and search visibility. We're going to unpack exactly why this happens, and more importantly, how to actually fix it. Here is our quick roadmap for getting there. We're going to start with the great architecture undersell, then look at letting photography breathe, uncover the invisible cost of bad site structure, lay down the technical foundation, and finally wrap up with building a better portfolio. All right, starting things off with Section 1, the great architecture undersell. Why exactly do amazing buildings get buried online? So when a firm's website totally fails to wow a visitor, it is almost never the architecture's fault. It's really not, because the projects themselves are weak. The failure happens because the website itself buries those projects. Or maybe it just takes forever to load them, or it presents them as this loose, messy stack of photos with zero context. It's kind of like walking up to a stunning multi-million-dollar building, but the path to get there is covered in trash and the front door is completely jammed shut. That is exactly what a bad website does to a great design. And this quote right here brilliantly captures the solution from our source material. I mean, the natural instinct is to just throw more at the problem, right? More photos, more pages, crazier navigation. Actually, scratch that. The fix isn't a bigger website, it's a more disciplined one. Really fixing this takes restraint. It takes fewer images, a repeatable case study structure, and a rock-solid technical foundation that basically just gets out of the way so your visuals can do the talking. Let's move right into Section 2, letting photography breathe. This is all about curating that visual experience with actual context. The absolute most common mistake we see is overwhelming the visitor with an exhaustive gallery. You know, that kitchen sink approach on the left, where you just show every conceivable angle of a project? It's visually overwhelming and super cluttered. Instead, you've got to focus on the curated page. You want to give a tight, hand-picked set of large, high-res photos the room they need to breathe. Architects already know all about the power of negative space in the physical world, right? Well, we just need to apply that exact same principle digitally. Clear out the clutter so the real impact of the work actually hits you. But here's the real kicker. Photos alone just aren't enough. A gorgeous photo tells me what a building looks like, sure, but it doesn't tell me why I should care. Every single visual needs a quick written frame covering 3 basic things. 1, what was the brief? 2, what were the major site or client constraints? And 3, how did the design respond? The photography shows the beautiful result, but just a couple of sentences covering those 3 steps explains why that result is so smart. And that context, that is exactly what makes a project stick in a potential client's mind. So, ignoring this stuff isn't just about bad aesthetics. Let's look at Section 3, the invisible cost. We're talking about the real, hidden business impacts of a poorly structured site. We've really got to remember that for a lot of potential clients, your website is the very first handshake. This is way before they ever pick up the phone, way before a proposal, and definitely before a site visit. That first impression is doing some heavy, heavy lifting. A portfolio that's snappy and looks highly intentional, that screams competence. But on the flip side, a slow, disorganized site instantly tanks your credibility. It frankly just reads as incompetence, and it doesn't even matter how masterful the actual buildings are. And then there's this second, massively invisible cost tied directly to page-level SEO. Think of this as the hidden text layer sitting underneath your visual design. Here's the deal. Search engines literally do not have eyes. They cannot appreciate your stunning high-res photography. They rely 100% on text, titles, headings, and descriptions to figure out what a page is even about. So an all-image portfolio with 0 text, you're giving search engines absolutely nothing to index. And the tragic result of that is your firm's absolute best marketing material becomes completely invisible to the exact client searching for your specific expertise. Okay, let's jump into Section 4, the technical foundation. Let's see where performance actually meets architectural design. So you might be sitting there wondering, okay, if I shouldn't just dump an exhaustive gallery on my site, how many projects actually belong on my homepage? Well, surprisingly, the magic number is usually just 4 to 8. A small, rigorously curated set of 4 to 8 projects will seriously outperform a massive, endless scrolling list every single time. The rest of your archive? That can absolutely live on its own dedicated browse page for sure. But your homepage needs to be a laser-focused, highly curated intro to your absolute best work. And hey, when visitors do finally click into one of those projects, how should it be set up? Well, definitely avoid the single long gallery where, 5 different projects are just mushed together on one endless page. It makes finding a specific project a nightmare and totally destroys your load times. Instead, it is so worth the effort to give every single project its own dedicated page. That way, each one gets its own unique title, its own description, and it can be found on its own terms by Google. Plus, it keeps the whole experience super fast and snappy. To make that happen, we absolutely have to avoid these quiet performance killers. Unoptimized image files, literally the biggest offender. They silently ruin your load times, and a lot of firms don't even realize it until they look at their traffic data and see a huge drop-off. This is super crucial because a massive chunk of your users are looking at your site on their phones, probably clicking over from Instagram or LinkedIn. If they hit a page choked with heavy images, they're going to bounce before the very first photo even loads. We also have to ditch overly complex menus, messy layouts, and absolute SEO killers like totally vague page titles or missing image text. All right, let's bring this all home with our final section, building a better portfolio. Let's look at the specific habits of highly successful firms. When you look at the firms totally crushing it online, it really just boils down to these specific habits. They always lead with photography, but strictly a small, curated set. They make sure every single project has that brief written frame of context we talked about. They keep navigation super minimal and predictable so it just gets out of the user's way. They rigorously compress their images for lightning-fast speeds, and they guarantee every project gets its own dedicated page. The firms winning at this don't treat SEO, structure, and speed as afterthoughts. They treat them as a core part of the original design brief. I absolutely love this takeaway from the source material. Just think about it. Your website is one of the very few places in the world where your firm has 100% total control over how your work is seen. There are no physical site constraints. It's not going to rain on the day of the tour. There are no strict page limits or weird printing errors. You own this digital environment completely. Nailing both the visual and technical presentation is literally the only way to make sure your amazing design work actually connects with the people who want to hire you. Which brings us to one final, really important question to leave you with today. Are you truly in control of your digital presentation? Or is your absolute best work just hiding in plain sight? Seriously, is your website working as hard to sell your vision as your architects do to build it? Or is it finally time to bring a little discipline to that digital portfolio? Take a good hard look at your own site today and see for yourself. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer, and I'll catch you in the next one.